Hey everyone, today we are going to expand on the skill that we worked on yesterday. And we are going to use our knowledge of factors to help us find the greatest common factor. Now in math, the greatest is going to be the biggest. So when we're talking about the greatest common factor, we're talking about the biggest of something. And then common is going to be something that they have that's the same. And then we're talking about factors. Factors are whole numbers that multiply to give us other numbers. So we're going to break down some of these numbers into their factors and figure out what they have that's the same, and we want the biggest one. We are going to use our U method for factoring today, and we are going to start by finding the factors of the smallest number in the group. So in part A, I'm going to find the factors of 18. And the reason I'm going to find the factors of 18 is because the greatest common factor cannot be bigger than the smaller number or the smallest number. Okay, if I'm listing factors that are bigger than 18, they can't go into 18. They don't work out evenly the way we want factors to. So I'm going to start with the smallest number and I'm going to list the factors. So 18 is 1 times 18, 2 times 9, and 3 times 6. Okay, so once I've got my factors listed, I'm looking for the greatest common factor. So I'm going to check my list of factors, starting with the biggest one. So I'm going to look at 18 first. And I'm going to ask the question, does 18 go into 36? And my answer is yes. 18 times 2 is 36. These numbers both have an 18 in common, so my greatest common factor is 18. I'm going to put a nice cloud around that answer to show that it's my final answer. So yesterday we focused on listing the factors. Could we list the factors of a number? Could we list the numbers that multiplied to make that number? Now we're taking those lists of factors and we're going to figure out what's the biggest one these two things have in common. So now in part B, you can see that there's 3 numbers. I'm still going to start with the smallest number. So I'm going to start with 22. And I'm going to list the factors of 22. 1 times 22, 2 times 11. And then I'm going to start with the largest factor in the list because I'm looking for the greatest common factor. Now, for a set of 3 numbers, it needs to work for all 3 numbers, not just the first 2. So when I say, does 22 go into 44? And the answer is yes, that's great, but I still have to ask the question, does 22 go into 77? And the answer is no. So when something doesn't work, I'm going to cross it out. So 22 didn't work, I'm going to cross it out. And I'm going to check 11. Does 11 go into 44? 11 times 4 is 44. Perfect. That checks out. Then I'm going to ask, does 11 go into 77? The answer is yes. 11 times 7 is 77. That one also worked. And all 3 of these numbers have 11 in common, and that is the greatest thing they have in common. So my greatest common factor is 11. In part C, I've got 24 and 25. I'm going to start by finding the factors of 24 because it is the smallest number. So 1 times 24. 24 is an even number, so 2 times 12. 2 is a factor of all even numbers. 3 goes into 24, 3 times 8. And then 4 also goes into 24 with 4 times 6. So now I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the first 2, and I'm going to ask that question. Does this number go into, or is it a factor of the other, the other number? So is 24 a factor of 25? Nope. Is 12 a factor of 25? Nope. Is 8 a factor of 25? No. Is 6 a factor of 25? No. Now, when I get to the end of the right-hand side, I've checked all the numbers that going greatest to least on the right-hand side, I'm actually going to jump over the multiplication sign and go up the other side. So is 4 a factor of 25? No. Is 3 a factor of 25? Nope. Is 2 a factor of 25? No. And the only thing I'm left with is 1. So my greatest common factor must be just 1. In part D, I've got 20 and 44. I'm going to find the factors of 20. So 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 4 times 5. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to ask the same questions, starting with my greatest factor. So does 20 go into 44? No. Does 10 go into 44? No. Does 5 go into 44? No. Does 4 go into 44? Yes. 4 times 11 is 44. And those 4s are what they have in common, so my greatest common factor must be 4. When you get to the end of the list on the right-hand side, it is okay to jump over that multiplication sign and go up the other list. In part E, it says 48 and 36. Again, we're finding the factors of the smallest number. So 36 is what I'm going to list the factors of instead of 48. So even though the order is flipped, we still want that smallest number. So 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, 6 times 6. And I'm going to go down the list starting with 36. So is 36 a factor of 48? No, it does not go into it evenly. Is 18 a factor of 48? No, it doesn't work. Is 12 a factor of 48? Yes, 12 times 4 is 48. So they have those 12s in common. My greatest common factor is 12. Okay, so to find the greatest common factor, you're first going to list the factors of the smallest number. So we're going to start by listing the factors of the smallest number, and then you're going to start with the largest number in that list and ask if it's a factor of the other number or numbers until you get one that works for every number in the group, and that is your greatest common factor.